What's up everybody, it's Sinistry, and today I am here to discuss a game I have been anticipating for quite a while, Cult of the Lamb. Now if you're unaware of this game, it's a very cute and eerie looking action roguelite, and it has some resource management mechanics as well. It's been super fun for me to play it so far. I'm about halfway through it. I don't personally mind spoilers, but this will be a spoiler-free review just for the sake of people who have not picked up the game at all. I will be discussing the first roughly 5 minutes of story just to kind of set the mood for the game. It's nothing that isn't in the demo. And I'll also be talking about the gameplay, the design, as well as who I think would really love to buy this game and have a lot of fun with it. Now, if you like this kind of content, make sure to like and subscribe. I make all kinds of gaming content, and I would love to make more about Cult of the Lamb. If you're interested in that, make sure to leave me a comment as well. That way I know that you would be interested in seeing some maybe tips and tricks videos, maybe some videos about the story once I fully complete the game, or just anything else about Cult of the Lamb. I really love this game, and I would love to make maybe a couple more videos about it in the future. So with that being said, let's talk about the premise of Cult of the Lamb. At the beginning of Cult of the Lamb, we open to you a little lamb who is all bound up and unable to do anything but walk. As you walk down a long and very eerie path, you eventually realize that you're being led to your sacrifice. You will be slaughtered in the name of the Old Faith, and the people who called for your sacrifice are called the bishops, and they are very spooky characters. They are not super friendly, and they don't really care that you're just a cute little innocent lamb. And just as you are about to get the old whoosh, you are actually saved, and you're teleported to a completely different location, which is actually even more eerie than the last one. So now you walk down this new path, and at the end of it, you see another very creepy looking figure, and his name is the One Who Waits. As it turns out, the One Who Waits was actually part of the group of the bishops, but he was actually cast out of this group after some rather unfortunate things happened. No spoilers, but he was eventually chained up and he is unable to use his powers, but he wants to, take revenge and get his power back, and that's why he has chosen to save you so you can avenge him. Now, what he expects from you is that you will build up a cult in his name, you will grow in power, you will destroy all of the bishops, and set him free. And that is basically where the story leaves off. At this point, you are tasked with setting up your cult, and you get the help of a rat named Rateau, who was actually the last person supposed to help out the One Who Waits. Apparently he has been doing this for quite a long time. And Rateau decides he's going to help you out in knowing what to do, understanding the gameplay mechanics, and getting up to speed so that you are able to make progress. And with that being said, let's jump into the gameplay. As I mentioned earlier, Cult of the Lamb is an action roguelite with resource management mechanics. And really, I would say that there are 3 different categories that the gameplay kind of falls into within this game. So I will just be diving into each of them a little bit in their own separate section. The first mechanic is the dungeon crawler. So if you've played a roguelite, you might be familiar with this kind of mechanic, but basically there is a randomly generated dungeon that you can go into. You have a couple of different ones throughout the game, but basically the dungeon layout is different every time. You might have tons of enemy rooms, you have a shop somewhere, you might have some power-ups, different things like that. And you can also progress the story and unlock some side quests within these dungeons as well. Now, to beat these dungeons, you actually start out with a main weapon. It could be like a dagger or an axe, something like that. It's randomly generated every time. And you also get a special ability that is usually a more like projectile or long range kind of weapon, but sometimes it's actually a close range weapon as well. So you take these weapons and you work your way through the enemies of every level of the dungeon before finally making it to either a mini boss or to one of the big bosses, which is the bishops. Throughout the dungeons, you also collect tons of different resources. You might find blueprints for different buildings you can construct at your temple grounds, which we'll talk about in a little bit. You might find followers, which you can convert to your cult. You can also find just raw materials, so things like wood or stone, and also different abilities that you can unlock for future runs. One of the great things of how the dungeon crawl works in this game is even if you die on a run, you don't totally lose everything. You actually get to keep quite a lot of what you have obtained throughout your run, which I think is really great because some roguelites are a little bit unforgiving with this aspect, but I think that this game really balances it very well and helps a lot with the second gameplay mechanic, which is resource management. Resource management takes place on your temple grounds, which is where you build up your cult and you gather followers, create living spaces for them, and preach to them. There are 3 main meters that you need to keep up at all times in order to keep your cult operating efficiently. The first is faith, which typically is helped by doing like sermons and religious rituals and things like that, and that is just basically your cult's main belief in you. The second meter is hunger, which is pretty obvious. You just cook for your followers and they automatically come over and eat, which is so nice. And then your third meter is cleanliness. Your followers can poop everywhere. It's gross. So these 3 meters really govern how your cult is running. If any of them gets too low, you will have some really bad side effects. But I will say that unlike some other games, from my personal experience, Don't Starve comes to mind, I think that these meters are actually, again, pretty forgiving. You can kind of let them get a little bit low, and if you're on the middle of a run and like someone gets sick, it's not usually an immediate concern. If you go on a run and your faith is too low and someone starts dissenting, again, it's not too immediate. You can usually finish what you're doing and then come back to your cult and kind of fix it. Now, there are different levels of difficulty within this game, so I would assume if you're at the highest difficulty, it would be a lot harder to manage. I've currently played on medium and high difficulty, or I guess medium and hard, so I have kind of seen, I think they're a little bit different, but generally speaking, these meters are not too difficult to manage, and you usually have enough resources to manage each of them, and if not, it's pretty easy to find them. So I said we were going to mention the followers a little bit more, and the followers are honestly my favorite part of the game in terms of just what makes me happiest to see. They are cute little animals, and I love naming them and giving them cute little looks and making them really individualized and all this kind of stuff, and then giving them jobs to do. Now that's the cool thing about this game. You get a lot of passive boosts from your followers. So if you have tons of followers, you're going to be pretty much good to go, and you're going to be able to get really strong really quickly and really wipe out the game. But unfortunately, followers are the most difficult resource to manage in my opinion. So as I kind of alluded to, followers can dissent, they can get sick, they can die, and all of these things have negative impacts on your cult for different reasons. But basically, you really need to make sure to stay on top of your followers. Unfortunately, it can be kind of difficult sometimes when they seemingly get sick out of nowhere, or they just die because they got too old, or whatever the case is. But really, I find that the game does a pretty good job of managing the back and forth of going on your dungeon runs, doing some side quests, again, we're gonna get to this later, and also taking care of your followers. I think it's kind of a nice balance. So I would say, generally speaking, I don't really have any qualms about how they have it set up, but I do think that it can become very difficult to manage followers once you have more than maybe 10 of them, and they kind of start blurring together and it's hard to remember who's who. One thing that I do wish that they had in this game, though, was maybe a little bit of a better UI for your followers. I do kind of find it a little bit frustrating how they have it set up. Your followers have different abilities and characteristics, and some of them might be happy at certain times and some of them might be upset at certain times, and there are different kinds of aspects to your followers that would be really nice to see at a glance. There are ways to see this, but I do feel like it just is a little time consuming when you have to go around to every person, you have to click on them, and you have to then read through everything to kind of see where they're at. I wish there was just maybe a better way to kind of show it at a glance, so you didn't really have to take as much time out of your day to track them down and individually look at them. So quests are the third category, And there are really two different kinds of quests that you will encounter in Cult of the Lamb. The first is side quests, and side quests are given to you by your followers, and they are typically pretty easy to knock out. They usually are in line with the work that you're already doing. So it might be like a fetch quest where maybe they'll ask you for like 10 flowers and you were already going to the place that has the flowers, so you figure, why not, I'll get them, and you bring them back and then they're super happy with you. Or they might ask you to complete a specific ritual or just do something else. So I would definitely say these side quests are pretty easy to complete, and they feel like they're a good part of the game and really make you feel really a part of the cult along with your followers, which sounds kind of funny, but it does feel a bit more like a community because of this aspect. On the other hand, the main quests. I call them main quests just because they tend to be more like in-depth and related to special characters, but I actually don't know if any of them are required to complete the game. Basically though, they are kind of out of the way quests, and I don't really love them, and I don't really love the pacing of them. Some of them are kind of fun, but some of them are a little frustrating when they might be fetch quests that take a very long time and are very specific and are kind of difficult to achieve because it's not just, go collect a certain amount of an item. You might need specific items that are kind of rare. I would say that this is one of my biggest qualms of the game. I don't really love having to, complete these quests, and, I am the kind of person who wants to go complete all the quests. But it's frustrating when I need to, take care of my followers and a bunch of them die at one time because they all got old and I didn't find new followers to replace them because I was too busy working on a quest, or I didn't have enough food for everybody, or things like that. And that did happen to me on my first playthrough. So I will say that I don't really love them, but they're there. You can do them. I don't know if you have to do them, but they are an aspect of the game, so I figured I have to mention them in the gameplay section. Moving away from the gameplay, I want to take a couple minutes to talk about the design of the game, which I think is one of the best aspects of the game. First of all, the visuals are stunning. You have a mixture of really cute visuals with the animals, and then you have super eerie visuals with the different dungeon areas that you go to. You have the super adorable little followers who go around your camp. You have butterflies, and you have like squirrels and all kinds of cute little things mixed with really grotesque enemies. And it's kind of a really interesting dichotomy there that kind of fits very well, surprisingly. The very cute and dark aesthetic just kind of works. And I think it's because they're really mindful of how they do things like choose color and which aspects of the game they make really dark and which ones they make really cute. So overall, I would say that they have done an excellent job with the visuals of this game. As for the soundtrack, I think that this is, again, one of my favorite aspects of the game. It's pretty simple. It's typically, just a looping soundtrack. I think there are a couple different tracks, but generally there's like one soundtrack, and it's really, really nice. Just the way that they use sound, the way that they cut it at certain moments when it's supposed to be really jarring because something's happening, which again, I'm not gonna say any spoilers, but sometimes there are jarring things where it should cut. But really, I think the music in the camp is just chef's kiss. It is so good. It really fits. It really makes you feel like cozy, even though it's super dark. Everything in this game is really dark and really like disturbing, but it feels like super cute and just fun and makes you want to play. And I also think that generally the sound design in this game is really good overall. I think that the sounds of, chopping wood or pickaxing stone or doing things like that, it's not too obtrusive. And I also think that the dialogue is so funny because every character has like their own little accent in their gibberish language, and I love it because it just feels like these are real characters, these are real people who have like their own life experiences, and they're not just all from the same place with the same background. They're all like vastly different, and I just love like feeling like this is an actual world that was built out. And that's, again, one of the best strong points of this game is kind of the world building and a lot of the passive world building through things like sound and visuals. Now again, on the other hand, There's something I don't really love about the design of the game, and that is the narrative and just the overall writing of the game. I don't think it's bad. I will not say that the people who wrote this game did a bad job, but I think that it's a little bit maybe cliche, or maybe just a little bit drawn out, or just not paced very well at times. I feel like the writing was kind of secondary to the actual gameplay itself. Like maybe the team had the idea for this game, they kind of knew what they wanted to do with it, but they didn't really know like what they wanted the story to be. It kind of feels like a game that was very gameplay driven and not story driven. And again, totally fine. I think it kind of makes up for it with all the visuals and the music, and like the gameplay itself is super fun. But I just don't feel like it was necessary to have so much story if it wasn't like a very story driven game. All right, and now my recommendations for who should buy this game. I would definitely say if you like roguelites at all, definitely give this game a try. Or if you're interested in roguelites and you've never played one, this is a good one to start with because I think it's pretty in-depth and engaging, but it's not actually as difficult as some others that I've played. And also if you like action games, if you like to hack and slash, or if you like cute animals or occult things, these are all things that are right up your alley in this game, so I would definitely recommend it for anybody who likes any of these aspects. So that's everything that I had to say about Cult of the Lamb at this time, at least at a very high level. I really have loved this game so much, and I'm going to obviously continue to play it and actually beat it. It will be one of the very few games I ever beat because it's short enough that I can actually commit to that. But realistically, this game does have some faults, as every game does, and it does have some bugs right now that really need to be addressed in order for people to have a fun play experience. But generally speaking, I would give this game probably an 8.5 in its current state. And if they can maybe, fix the bugs, do some tweaking to some of the tedious things, or if they can add some DLC to the end, some free DLC, I should say, after the main story's over so people have a reason to continue playing, I think that I would definitely bump it up to a 9, or, if they gave us some free DLC and it was like really good, maybe even a 9.5. This game is super, super fun. I don't give these ratings lightly, but I definitely want to, stick to 8.5 right now because there are some concerns that need to be addressed. But that is everything I had to say. Thank you so much for watching. Again, if you liked this content, make sure to like and subscribe, and let me know what you thought of Cult of the Lamb. Are you going to pick it up? Do you already have it? Have you beaten it? Do you want me to make more content about it? I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments down below. But with that being said, I will see y'all later.